This is the IELTS Listening Test. You will hear a number of different recordings and will have to answer questions based on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the questions and instructions before each part of the test. You will hear each recording once only. The test is divided into 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to Part 1. Part 1. You will hear a man talking to a woman at a job placement agency about possible employment opportunities. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning, Daniel. Thanks for coming to our office today. I'm Laura Green, one of the career advisors here.
Hello, Laura. Yes, thanks for calling me earlier.
No problem at all. I've gone through your CV, and there are 2 roles that seem like a good fit for your background.
Great. I'm interested to hear more.
The first job is for an office assistant at a company located in West London.
Okay, and what kind of business is that?
It's a firm called Urbancraft, and they manufacture and sell furniture.
Oh, that's something new for me, but sounds appealing.
Yes. Based on your experience, you meet several of their needs. You've done data entry, haven't you?
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. They also need someone who can attend meetings and prepare notes.
I used to do that quite a bit in my previous job.
Excellent. You'll also be handling general administrative work, things like record keeping and filing.
That's fine. I also maintained the schedule and diary for my manager before.
Very useful. I'd recommend adding that to your CV. I don't think it's currently mentioned.
Oh, good idea. I'll update it.
Now, as for requirements, they're looking for someone with strong computer abilities, especially spreadsheet use.
That shouldn't be a problem.
They also value interpersonal skills, which they'll probably confirm with your references.
I think my referees will support that.
And finally, they want someone who is thorough and pays attention to detail. Judging by your CV, I'd say that suits you.
I'd agree. Do they need any particular kind of experience?
They'd like at least 1 year's experience with online meetings or teleconferencing.
I've been doing that for over 3 years.
That's great. You're well above the requirement. So, is that something you'd be interested in?
Definitely, although West London is quite far from where I live. The commute might be a bit much.
I understand.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
The second position might be more suitable for you in terms of distance. It's a warehouse assistant role located in South London.
Oh, that's much better for me.
And you've done warehouse work before, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Perfect. For this role, you'd be responsible for managing the stock and also organizing deliveries.
That's fine. I'm comfortable with numbers and keeping things in order.
Excellent. They're also looking for someone who is computer literate, which you clearly are.
Sure.
Good. They also emphasize organizational skills. They want someone who is well organized and tidy.
That describes me pretty well.
Great. And communication skills are important, both spoken and written.
I enjoy team discussions. In fact, What I liked most about my previous warehouse job was being part of a team.
That's great to hear. They specifically mentioned teamwork experience as a must. By the way, what kind of products did you handle in your last position?
Mostly household items, kitchen and bathroom equipment like fridges, ovens, and sinks.
So, you're fine handling heavy items then.
Yes, I've had proper training for lifting.
Excellent. Finally, they prefer applicants who have a driving license, are familiar with driving around London, and have experience with customer service.
I meet all those criteria.
Wonderful. Then I think both jobs could work for you. One in the office and one in the warehouse.
They both sound promising. Could you tell me a little about the salary for each?
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers. Part 2. You will hear a woman named Helen Brooks talking on the radio about a local scheme where streets are closed to traffic so that children can play safely. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
My guest on the programme today is Helen Brooks, who helped introduce the Play Street project on her road, Maple Avenue. For anyone who hasn't heard of it before, the project allows residents to block off their street for several hours so children can play outside without any danger from cars. She began the idea in her own street, and now there are dozens of similar play streets across the city. So, Helen, when did the first event actually happen?
Well, I first thought about it when my eldest son was very young. He's 8 now. So I'd say I came up with the idea about 6 years ago. But we had to spend nearly 2 years getting approval and support before it could really begin. So it's been running successfully for about 3 years now. We'd really like to be able to close the road for longer periods, maybe for an entire weekend from Saturday morning until Sunday night. Right now it happens once a week, though when we started it was just one Sunday a month. So we're definitely making progress.
What actually happens on the day when Maple Avenue is closed?
We have volunteer stewards, mostly mums and dads, though a few older neighbours help too, who put up barriers at both ends of the street. The City Council gave us clear signboards, but we always keep someone there to explain to any drivers what's going on. Most people are understanding. We've only had to call the police once or twice. Now, the road isn't completely blocked. Residents who need to use their cars can still drive in or out, as long as they keep below 20 kilometres per hour. Most people, however, prefer to park on another street, or simply not use their cars at all. The stewards are only there to stop through traffic.
And is it open to anyone to start something like this in their own area?
Oh, absolutely. We want to reach all children across the city, especially those living on main roads where traffic is constant. That's where we see the greatest need. Of course, in richer neighbourhoods or suburban areas, children already have gardens or nearby parks, so the demand isn't so high there. I'd encourage anyone who likes the sound of it to give it a try. We've been amazed by the positive feedback we've received, not just from parents, but from other neighbours too. There are always a few who complain, but they're very few indeed. Most residents are pleased to see children enjoying themselves outside, even if it gets a bit noisy sometimes.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
There have been loads of benefits for the children. Parents are delighted that their kids are breathing fresh air instead of staring at screens indoors all day, even if they're not doing anything super active. It's also wonderful that they can be outside playing with their friends without needing adults to watch them every minute. But the best thing for me is that the kids gain confidence about being outdoors on their own. It really builds their independence. Another lovely result is that they get to know all the adults who live nearby. It's like the whole street has become one big family.
That sounds fantastic. But I know you've also been part of another initiative in Riverdale Road. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure, this was a small experiment we tried, where local people wanted to cut down traffic on Riverdale Road, the busiest main road in our district, by encouraging drivers to leave their cars at home for just one day. We thought about charging extra for parking, but we knew that wouldn't be very popular. Instead, we simply banned parking on Riverdale Road for the day but kept all other parking areas open. It was amazing how much of an effect that simple change had. As expected, the air was noticeably cleaner. What I hadn't realised, though, was how peaceful it would feel, even though the buses were still running. And surprisingly, the shops had more customers than usual that day. We thought the opposite would happen, that people would stay away, but sales actually went up.
That's really interesting. So the fact that the street was quieter actually made it busier in a good way.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2. Part 3. You will hear 2 students named Lena and Josh discussing Lena's Media Studies project. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Josh, could I get your opinion on something?
Sure. What do you need help with?
It's for my first media studies report, and I'm a bit lost about how to start. You did it last semester, didn't you?
Ah, is it the one where you compare how different newspapers cover the same news story?
Exactly, that's the one.
Oh yes, I actually liked doing that.
Great. So, what kinds of things should I focus on when comparing them?
Well, there are quite a few aspects. First, you'll need to check which page the article appears on.
Because there's a big difference between something on the front page and something buried in the middle pages, right?
Right. That shows how much importance the editor gives to it. Then look at the size, how much space the story takes, how many columns it spreads across, and of course, the headline.
Oh, so the headline counts too?
Definitely. It's part of how the paper grabs the reader's attention.
Should I also pay attention to visuals or photos?
Yes, any graphics that go with the text. Images can sometimes shape the reader's impression even more strongly than the words.
I see. What about how the story itself is organized?
That's another key thing. Its structure. Think about how it's built up. Most people only read the first paragraph, so note what the journalist puts first and how other points are arranged.
Makes sense. And if the article includes different sides of an argument, maybe one opinion gets pushed to the end where people won't notice it?
Exactly. Also, sometimes papers include information that's not completely correct, intentionally or not.
Should I analyse that too?
Yes, if possible. Compare versions in other newspapers to see what's consistent and what isn't. That links to another crucial thing, the writer's main purpose.
Like whether they're trying to inform or influence.
Yes, sometimes they want to create fear or make a situation seem more dramatic than it really is.
Interesting. And I suppose the journalist might make assumptions about the readers.
Definitely, about what readers already know, their opinions, and even their education level. That affects the language and tone used in the article.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Does it matter what kind of topic I pick?
Not really. You can choose anything. Politics, the arts, sports, as long as it appears in at least 2 or 3 newspapers. But it'll be easier if it's something you're genuinely interested in.
Well, I quite like following national politics, so I'll definitely try to find a political article to compare.
That sounds good. I was more curious about how newspapers show their opinions, so I thought I'd study editorials, but I couldn't find 2 about the same issue, so I gave up on that idea.
Oh, in that case, I won't bother with editorials either.
So instead, I looked at a human interest story about a man who rescued several animals during a flood. Some newspapers focused on how heroic he was, while others questioned why the rescue services weren't better prepared.
Stories like that usually make me quite emotional. I'll avoid those, I think. Maybe I'll go for something in the arts, like film reviews or articles about museum funding. I'll see what I can find.
That could be quite an interesting angle.
Thanks a lot, Josh. That really clears things up.
You're welcome, Lena. Good luck with the assignment.
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture about the early history of keeping clean. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today, we use a wide range of items for washing ourselves, doing laundry, cleaning dishes, and keeping our homes tidy. However, this habit of using separate cleaning products only really developed in the 20th century. The roots of cleanliness go much further back, all the way to prehistoric times. Since water was essential for survival, the earliest humans chose to live close to rivers and lakes. They soon noticed that water could rinse mud from their hands and skin, even if they didn't yet understand why it worked. During archaeological work in ancient Babylon, experts discovered proof that people there already knew how to make a form of soap as early as 2800 BC. They uncovered clay containers marked with symbols explaining that fats had been boiled together with ashes, a basic process of soap production. There was, however, no clear evidence that this mixture was used for washing. The ancient Greeks were known to bathe for beauty rather than for hygiene, and they didn't actually use soap. Instead, they rubbed their bodies with sand, pumice, or ash, covered themselves with oil, and then scraped off the oil and dirt with a metal tool called a strigil. Clothing was cleaned simply by rinsing it in streams or rivers, again without soap. Among the early Germans and Gauls, another step forward occurred. They made a substance similar to soap by combining melted animal fat and done in ashes, which they interestingly applied to their hair to give it a reddish color. According to a Roman tale, the word soap originated from Mount Sapo, where sacrifices were carried out. Rain mixed the animal fat and wood ashes from these rituals with the clay soil that ran into the river Tiber. Women washing clothes nearby found that this mixture made cleaning much easier. As Roman culture flourished, public baths became an important part of life. The first grand Roman bathhouse, fed by water from aqueducts, was constructed around 312 BC. Bathing soon turned into a social activity, and by the 2nd century AD, the Greek doctor Galen advised using soap for both health and cleansing purposes. After the collapse of the Roman Empire in 467 AD, Europe entered a long period where bathing became uncommon. The decline in personal hygiene, together with dirty living conditions, helped the spread of disease, including the terrible Black Death of the 14th century. Even so, soap making continued to progress. It became a recognized craft in many European cities, with soap makers protecting their trade secrets carefully. They began to add perfume to their products for the first time and used both plant ashes and animal or vegetable oils. Over time, people developed different kinds of soaps for shaving, washing hair, bathing, and laundry. A turning point in soap manufacturing came in 1791, when the French chemist Nicolas Leblanc created a method of converting salt into soda ash, a chemical essential for combining with fat to make soap. This invention made large-scale production possible. Some years later, in the early 1800s, another French chemist, Michel Eugène Chevreul, discovered how fats, glycerin, and fatty acids were chemically related. Thanks to his research, soap making evolved into a true science, and new techniques allowed factories to produce soap faster and at lower cost. For centuries, soap had been an expensive item, often subject to heavy government tax. But once that tax was finally removed in the 19th century, ordinary families could afford to buy it, and standards of cleanliness improved dramatically. With the spread of soap use came gentler formulas for bathing, as well as special types designed for the early washing machines that appeared at the end of the 19th and start of the 20th century.
That is the end of part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.